thyself is to love thyself, is to examine, observe, and respect thyself. It's an ongoing process, never to be explained in a brief synopsis. It's a preoccupation with reflection and revelation that can only be achieved through discipline and determination.
Hello and welcome to the Encouraging Word Show. I'm your host, Jamila Freelain, and for those of you tuning in, of course, as always, we've got all kind of exciting college and career prep information. Now, for those of you that are watching for the very first time, you may not know it, but this show is really dedicated to students and parents. It's about trying to get you ideas on how you could better prepare for college, how you can reduce some of your costs, and it's really all inspired by a book that I wrote, which is called Free Money for College, and the whole purpose is to back students and parents with different resources, tools, and understandings of strategies that you could use that you may not have thought of that can help to reduce college costs. Now today I have with me a very special guest. I'm very pleased to have Mr. Mike Realon here today. How are you today?
Great to be here.
Great.
Appreciate the privilege.
No problem. I'm so very glad that you were available to come. Now tell me your title. I know you work with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools in the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about your title and what it is you do.
I am the Academy and Career Development Coordinator at the Olympic Community of Schools, Olympic High School, more formerly known by most people. And so at Olympic High School, what I do is we have 5 career academies. And within those career academies, we have lots of partnerships in trying to make kids career and college ready. And we believe that all children should be career ready, especially when we look at data. So that's one of our primary objectives as trying to help kids who can reach their human and economic potential and really be able to realize and experience upward economic and social mobility.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's pretty huge task. So it sounds though from my conversations with you as well as meeting some of the people from Olympic High School that you guys are really becoming a beacon and a model and champion of college and career readiness. Can you break that down a little bit? Because I think oftentimes when I run into students and parents, when you say college and career readiness, they still think a traditional 4-year college model, and that's not necessarily the case.
Yes, so Olympic's been part of this movement for a decade as part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Small School Movement. So Gates has dedicated billions of dollars to try to help America reinvent and regain its position in the world, where we used to be the envy of the world when it came to high school, not so much anymore. And he believes that how we've missed the mark is that we should make kids who can be successful in school, in work, and in life. And so that's a much more holistic approach, and that's our approach at Olympic, that kids shouldn't just be college ready, they should be career ready. This is not a mutually exclusive situation, that they need to be both. And when we look at data across the United States and we look at 40 consecutive years of middle class decline, we see Charlotte ranked 99th out of 100 in terms of upward economic and social mobility, but that doesn't seem to reconcile with the fact when we look at millennials, are the most educated generation in the history of America. The highest ratio ever is leaving high school, going to college, and get a 4-year college degree. Right. But when we look at those Americans with 4-year college degrees that are millennials, over half of them today are either unemployed or underemployed or unemployed totally.
Very true.
Despite the fact that they have at least a 4-year college degree, and the average American today, they leave college with over $40,000 in debt.
Absolutely.
So Olympic has embraced what thought leaders across the United States have espoused, and what Harvard says is we should quit telling children university for all. And he says, well, we need to remodel and modify that and tell our children that they need to get a degree, a license or certificate
so
that has value.
Designation of some sort.
Or some nature like that. But if we go to college and we chase a degree, or if we go to CPCC and chase a certificate or degree or license or certificate, we should tell our children it has to have value in the job marketplace.
Absolutely.
So, when we look at a lot of degrees, today, college, four-year university degrees, they just don't have very much value in the job marketplace. So when we look at real data, real facts, what we find is that all of these millennials, they have four-year college degrees, right? But they're unable to get a job or they're underemployed, yet we have over 6 million unfilled jobs today. So how do you reconcile those two big data points?
Right, and get those students to work.
Yeah, so we've really wasted a lot of this human potential of our children by not providing the proper advice and counsel to help them identify what pathways of careers, what pathways of education, which degrees actually have value. You know, I read the other day that in Wisconsin, some of the different universities, they are totally taking away 13 college degrees. You cannot pursue these degrees because they don't lead to a job.
Gotcha.
And every degree that they have now at some of these universities in Wisconsin, they have to lead to an actual job someday.
So that was something they did for the state, or there was one big school like University of Wisconsin?
There's some of the different colleges as part of the University of Wisconsin system.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Very, very interesting. So to that point, it looks like, from what I understand at Olympic, one of the things that you're doing to kind of foster that mindset of if someone wants to go to a four-year school, or if somebody wants to be career-bound, more so if they want to be career-bound and oriented in that direction, you guys are doing a lot with different partners, different companies, corporations, industry partners is what we call them.
So Olympic has a career academy model. Academy is an overused word and it's used freely.
Right.
Well, we prescribe to a certain model that's the premier model in the United States. It's the NAF, Career Academy model. And so within that, there has to maintaining a fidelity and integrity. What is a career academy, which should be making career and college-ready kids, both, right?
Okay.
And,
Yeah,
and when
absolutely.
we talk about career-ready, what we mean is not necessarily you're ready to jump into a job per
Right.
se, even though some of them will.
Right.
But are you exposed to this environment to start identifying what are the pathways, what are the careers, what kind of education? If I want to be a psychologist and do therapy in North Carolina, well, that means I need to get a PhD. Well, I want you to understand that before you start chasing that degree.
Right.
And then end up after 4 years at a university and that's it. I don't want to go to school anymore. Well, the only therapy you're going to give is working at Starbucks or working as a bartender.
Right.
But you're
With
not
an
going to get
undergraduate degree
paid
in
for
psychology.
doing
Right.
therapy at all. So, and if that's what you want to pursue, just helping them, that's fine. Find your passion, find your curiosity, find your interest, go chase it. But we're going to make you, hopefully expose you to real data and facts.
Right.
Within this process of, just like we would quite often with an athlete. You know, and I understand that, you know, with regards to loving sports and going to college,
Yeah.
playing sports and thinking I'm going to be a pro someday. But you better have a plan B here.
Absolutely.
Right?
Plan
You
B and a
need-
plan
Let's
C.
understand how many really make it, you know, in that realm. And the same way with lots of other different kinds of degrees and things where whatever education the kids pursue, of understanding the likelihood of your being able to get a job. And there's sources out there like Pay Scale, you know, where you're able right now to do the cost-benefit analysis.
Sure.
You can do the break-even analysis. You can actually look and see, if I go to this school and get this degree, what is the average level of debt that I
That I'm
should
going
expect
into.
to
Right,
assume
right.
doing that. And they even give you a return on investment
Thank
figure.
you.
Right?
We talk
So-
about that often on the show.
and when we think about children, and so, you know, a big school district like CMF with 150,000 kids, and over half below the poverty level, quite often, you know, most parents, most people, if they haven't reached their economic potential, they're usually going to blame that on a lack of education, right? What Harvard says is
No, that's not it.
it's not about how much education, it's about what kind.
Yes,
And
and the
helping
quality,
kids see
right.
the pathways. And so you're at CPCC, where, you know, kids at Olympic right now, you know, when they go back to school tomorrow, they're going to get paid $9 an hour when they sit in class. Now, I'm not sure, but that's not a bad gig.
Yeah.
And so they're
Not at
getting
all. You get
paid,
paid for somewhere you'd be
hourly
anyway.
wage when you're in school. You know, they are in a apprentice program. You know, they're in a mechatronics engineering type of program. You know, they're going to end it in about when they're 21 or 22, and the average median wage for a CNC technician today is $67,000.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm only going to have a 2-year college degree, and helping kids. You did not fail
And
because
no
you're
debt,
getting
by
it,
the way.
and no debt. Right, and if you do a little overtime, you're probably making $100,000 a year. And
Absolutely.
within the programs, what we tell kids is, stepping stones that you go through, and you don't have a ceiling on you. You need to be a lifelong learner. And we're in this world of technology, and artificial intelligence is right around the corner. That's totally going to revamp what the world is all about. So what we need to teach you is being a lifelong learner. We don't say that in a way that, that shouldn't be meaningful to a kid. But we really mean that.
Right.
It's going to change. It's too dynamic. There's too much impact of technology, and those companies.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to pay you because you're continuing to have value that you're
Absolutely.
bringing to that workplace.
And as long as you have value, you have a place.
Right.
Yeah, certainly.
So Olympic, when we start, we have these career academies. They're set up in the 5. We've looked at the economic plan of Charlotte, the 5-year plan. When we started our career academies, we've set up our career academies in 5 big industry sectors that have talent gaps, so there's opportunities for kids when they go through the career
talent gap
academy.
areas that you guys identified?
So we have engineering and advanced manufacturing career academy, health sciences, right, IT,
Okay.
finance,
Okay.
hospitality, and tourism. So 1 out of 6 jobs in Charlotte are related to hospitality, tourism, and entertainment. Right, obviously the biggest employer in Charlotte is Carolina's Healthcare Systems. Is that who they are today?
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
yeah. I
keep
think they have a
changing,
different
right?
name now. Like, oh gosh, I forget the name.
Atrium? Is it it?
It's
I
a
don't know what it
corporate
is.
sounding name, kind of like that, but
Yeah.
I don't know if Atrium is it. It does
Sorry.
seem like ambient or something. No,
Maybe
that's
that. I
don't
can't
know.
remember. It's hard to keep up with.
Sorry.
But they're the biggest employer.
Sorry, former CMC.
And so IT, 30,000 unfilled IT jobs just today in Charlotte, 1 million cloud jobs. Most of them don't require 4-year college degrees.
Absolutely true.
Right, with what you're doing.
But as you said, if you couple that experience with being able to work, you having the skill to be able to get in that industry, enjoy it, and then along the way cultivate your skill and continue learning, then you can put yourself in a much better position. It's another strategy, another angle to look at education, as opposed to looking at just only the 4-year model, maybe majoring in something that doesn't have a demand, ending up in a world of debt, and then maybe having to go back to school just a few short years later, getting more debt to go into something that's more in demand. If you maybe use this approach, this could really work out a lot better for you. So that being said, I know we've talked a lot about the success of the or the types of programs that you have and the different things that are going on there, but tell me about some of the success stories at your school.
Well, we're a school, when you look at our population, half of our kids are below the poverty level, right? So we're trying to put them on pathways that they can reach their human and economic potential. That's what's important to us. We want to help foster upward economic and social mobility at a higher level than what we're seeing here. So we have a variety of kids. We had our graduation today for our Academy of Engineering.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about your speaker.
181 different seniors who received a special diploma and a national diploma that's looked at and with high regard across the nation. And companies like HP and Lenovo and who else is in that mix? Citigroup. And,
they actually were there?
Well, some of them, different companies were there, but in order to get this kind of diploma, they actually provide incentives to kids.
Yeah.
That we want you to be a NAF Career Academy student. We want you to go through a 9th through 12th grade process. And if you do, we're going to provide you special employment features and opportunities and even compensation features. So some of the companies, what they tell kids, if you went through high school and became a NAF Career Academy completer with what you're doing and have met the requirements for what we call NAVTRAC certified, well, if you qualify for a job at HP or Lenovo or JP Morgan, we guarantee you a job interview. Not only that, some of the companies, if we hire you and hire me, but I'm the NAVTRAC completer, and we have getting the same job, the NAVTRAC completer, they're going to pay more.
Okay.
Right? So what they're really setting up then is helping parents and students see there's a reason why we're putting our money here.
Absolutely.
Right, why
Absolutely.
we're putting incentives up, because we want these kids to be both career and college ready. Right,
sure.
we want you to come into place with, no matter what degree you're looking to chase, and if you're going to be a risk management analyst at Bank of America and need a master's degree, we want you to find that space, understand the kind of education you're going to need in order to do that, and then go chase it with eyes wide open.
Absolutely. And that's something we always say here is it's about being strategic and intentional. Now, quickly, I know we have a young man who actually recently visited the White House, and I think that's a true great spokesperson and champion and success story. Tell me a little bit about his
So we
story.
have a young man, he did the keynote presentation. He graduated from our school in 2015. And so he came back today to tell the 181 graduates about his experience and gave him the benefits of his wisdom and telling them that you need to constantly be chasing what we call work-based learning. Even while you're going through college, you're finding those internships and looking for their pathways. But he became an apprentice when he was a junior in high school. So his senior year at Olympic, while he was doing his Academy of Engineering and college prep classes, he also was working at Siemens and going to CPCC, taking mechatronics engineering classes while he was going. And those classes were paid for by Siemens. He got paid an hourly wage while he was sitting in a class at Olympic.
So his schooling was paid, and on top of that, he was paid for the work that he did.
Right, and these programs, they're blended. So what that means is, you're working on the job, on the plant floor, and you're working at school, but you get to make that relationship between theory of what's going on in the classroom with real-world applications of what's going on in the workplace.
Excellent. We have about 30 seconds left. Tell me quickly, if you could, about the young lady who I recently saw at the Arrowwood Association meeting. She spoke about some of the success she had.
Yeah, so we had a young lady who did the various IT and robotics and coding programs that we did, and really had a lot of talent, but was, probably economically challenged. And coming out of high school, she was probably one of the best kids in our school, but she says, I just really had to face the idea that, financially it was going to be hard for me and my family to do. And in fact, her senior year, she had to quit a lot of things to go to work because she needed to help her family.
She had to contribute to the income of the family, and that's common for a lot of students.
So Red Ventures hired her out of high school like she was a college graduate for about $45,000, and within her first year, 18 years old, she was able to buy her and her family their first house.
Is that not tremendous?
And this is a kid, like we say, lifelong learning. She hasn't stopped going to school. She's just understanding I did not fail in my life because I took this first stepping stone.
She took a different approach.
And I didn't think I had to go to college first. I'm working, I'm going to college. I know the kind of position I want to have in the future. I have my mentors at Red Ventures, and I'm pursuing the kind of education, training, and skills I need to be able to be the person. And again, she's just approaching it intentionally, purposefully, but finding a different stepping stone, pathway to get where she wants to go in her life.
And getting to pretty much the goal that everybody has in mind anyway. She just took a different approach. And if anything, it was much more strategized. And like you said, it was more purposeful and deliberate, but what a tremendous success story. Well, I do want to thank you for being on that first segment of the Encouraging Words Show. You've shared so much knowledge. What I will do as well is to provide some other pictures so you guys can see Mike in action at the school and with some of the students.
Or kids in action.
Well, kids in action and what they've the different things that they've done. I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Stay tuned for the second half of the Encouraging Words Show. Hello and welcome back to the Encouraging Word Show. I'm your host, Jamila Freelain, and the word for today is partnership. Now, for those of you who watched the first segment, you have to admit that was actually pretty tremendous. There was so many different things that my guest, Mike Realon, talked about, and one of the most powerful things that I believe that he focused on was talking about partnerships with different industries in the area. And the whole reason that he talked about those is because these are companies and industry leaders in the area who have aligned themselves with his school and invested in our future. They've invested time and resources into the schools, and as a result, been able to capitalize on that investment. And these students are oftentimes coming out being able to work for those companies, and those companies in return have done things like assisted them with college costs, that sort of thing. So it's been a beautiful marriage or partnership. And when it comes to college and career preparation, oftentimes people don't think of the word partnership, but let me tell you, partnership is key, not just from the standpoint of industries hiring from different colleges and universities, or putting different programs into high schools and middle schools, but even on an individual level when it comes to college and career preparation. Now, of course, we know this is a Christian station, so when we talk about a Christian perspective, we know that when it comes to prayer, for example, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. We know this. But in reference to partnership, one of the best scriptures that I can think of that I often reflect on is the fact that it says essentially, when we think about where two or more are gathered in his name, there he will be also. And what that essentially means is if you have people that are like-minded in spirit and they're in prayer and they are acknowledging, praising, or referencing our Lord, then at the end of the day, he'll be there also, and he'll bless whatever those prayers are, and we'll see those things come to pass. When it comes to college and career preparation, it's kind of the same thing in terms of being like-minded. When you have a partner to go with you through some of the different ups and downs that you'll encounter in college, and trust me, there will be some triumphs and some challenges when you're going through college. It is some character building experiences that you will have as you're going through college, and when you endure that, you need someone that can partner with you. So if you have someone who is a partner, that makes a difference in terms of pushing and encouraging you. There's a book that was out several years ago. I would probably venture to say maybe even 15, 20 years ago, and it was called The Pact. But the story of The Pact is just as impactful today as it was when the book was written. And it was a story of several African-American young men who essentially came from an inner city background, and they created a pact amongst themselves, and as a result, they made this pact, and they all kind of talked about what their aspirations were that were career related, and they all became professionals in their industries. And it was really great, but one of the reasons, or one of the greatest reasons they were able to attain that success is because they had somebody to push them. They had somebody to partner with. They had their own unique cohort, their own group that they could go through and go to when they had challenges or experienced some hardship. They had somebody who could go through it with them. So that's one of the things that I would say is most important in terms of your college and career experiences. Make sure that you align yourself with somebody who is equal-minded, goal-oriented. It's fine to be friends with people, but you can't necessarily align yourself and be friends with everybody, particularly if they're not on the path that you're on, because that person can tear you down or bring you away from what your goal is, and you want to be able to stay on that path and get to where you're going. Now, another idea or another reason that partnership is so empowering is when it comes down to it. You need somebody sometimes to bounce ideas. Maybe you're trying to think of business ideas. If you're trying to start your own business, or if you're trying to figure out how to do this on time, and you feel like you're able to grasp or the concept of whatever this was in class, and then all of a sudden you're maybe not sure how to solve that particular problem, or maybe you don't really quite grasp the concept at all that the instructor was trying to convey. So when you have somebody that is going through with you and going and has been in the trenches with you, then that's somebody who kind of understands and again can help to saddle the burden, or maybe release some of the pressure with you as you go through and endure. And they can, of course, inspire you by giving you ideas that you hadn't thought of before, maybe helping you with writing a paper, or again helping to solve a problem, or help you to figure out how to do or how to approach an assignment that you may have just been stumped by. Last, and of course not least, in reference to partnership, as a person who's planning on not just approaching school, because again, I feel like a lot of times people are all about approaching school but don't really take graduation in mind. Keep in mind, as Mike mentioned in the first segment, we all really kind of have to aim and strive to be lifelong learners. And to that end, once you complete whatever it is you're completing, be it your associate's degree, be it your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, your doctorate degree, whatever it may be that you're finishing, at the end of the day, when you've partnered or aligned yourself with someone who has similar goals and a similar mindset to you, the value of that is really powerful when we talk about your network. So, network, what does that mean essentially? That means all the people that you are aligned with, that you have influence with. How far can that go? You know, there's the phrase 6 degrees of separation, and 6 degrees of separation is kind of a concept of saying really that there's at least 6 people, or maybe a minimum of 6 people between you and anybody else on the planet. And depending on who's in your network, that can be true. Sometimes it's 2 degrees, or sometimes it's maybe 8 or 10 degrees. Let's say, for example, you were trying to align yourself with Prince Harry. And you may not know Prince Harry personally, but maybe your grandmother, grandfather, sister, uncle, brother, cousin maybe cut his hair once when he visited New York, or maybe someone was a concierge that worked for him, or that assisted him when he maybe came to visit the U.S., or better yet, in his home country. There are different ways in which you maybe could think about the people in your network, or people that you're affiliated with. And if you talk long and hard enough, you're going to find that there is some connection that you may have to Prince Harry, for example. And that's just a really random example, but the same holds true with anyone, essentially. So to that end, there is value in having a network. So when you actually graduate, if you're looking, let's say, for example, at thinking about different job opportunities, you're maybe thinking about relocating to another area, or maybe, for example, you have a son or daughter that you're trying to help and trying to assist. Think about who's in your network. If you were in a sorority or a fraternity, or if you were a part of some organization, whether it was a trade organization or some other student group, what have you, those friendships and alliances that you form at that school level can really be invaluable. Even myself, I know at one point I actually was in real estate, and the people that I met in real estate school, I kept in touch with a lot of them. So for example, once I became a realtor or did real estate, that was a natural resource of people that I could go to if, let's say, I had a home that was on the market, or if I was working with a certain buyer. So you create this network of people based upon the partnerships that you form while you're in school, and it can be invaluable to you. So just be mindful that partnership isn't just about, when we talk about college and career preparation or career readiness, it's not just about a company investing, but it's about recognizing the value of individual partnerships and friendships as well. And you can go far. It definitely can help to encourage you. It can help you in terms of coming up with ideas and concepts for assignments and papers. And then lastly, it can help you to build your network. I want to say thank you so much for watching the show today. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did. It was a treat. Again, stay tuned, and every Thursday we'll be right here. Thanks for watching.